Today on Legally Us, Hall and Oats are at war while Tiffany Haddish is arrested for DUI for the second time. Plus, women accuse Diddy of sexual assault. We got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, and welcome to Legally Us. I'm Christina, and that's, of course, Neama Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hi, Neama. How are you?
Doing great, Christina. How about you?
I'm doing good. Lots to get to this week, as always. And kicking it off with a very interesting story that definitely got a lot of people talking. So the circumstances surrounding Daryl Hall's restraining order against longtime music partner John Oates have been revealed. So Hall sued Oates over plans to sell his portion of their joint business venture, according to the Associated Press. So Oates' intentions to sell his portion of Primary Wave Music, an independent music publisher, allegedly violates the terms of their business contract, and the contract's terms have not been publicly revealed. But a judge in Nashville unsealed part of the lawsuit, and the judge granted Hall a restraining order to temporarily block the sale during the ongoing legal proceedings. The judge ruled that Oates and others involved in his trust can't close the sale of Whole Oats Enterprises to a private investment firm until either an arbitrator in a separate case responds or the judge's restraining order expires. The judge's ruling was issued on the same day that Hall filed his lawsuit. So kind of break this all down because it's a little confusing. So why would you file a restraining order when business is involved?
So, Christina, we talk a lot about restraining orders on the show, but this isn't a Vanderpump Rules type restraining order. This is a different type of restraining order, and it essentially prevents someone from doing something. Or really what the judge here is trying to do is maintain the status quo, keep things as they are, and really to prevent Oates from selling the music to this investment company until the arbitrator in the case is assigned and makes a decision.
So was this kind of like a last-ditch effort for Hall?
So what's going on here is in 2021, Hall and Oates entered into an agreement. It's a partnership agreement. And that agreement says that any disputes have to be arbitrated in a confidential proceeding. So what's happening here is there's a dispute. Can Oates sell the music to this investment company? Hall obviously says no. And he's gone and publicly said that he regrets selling his music in the past. So clearly he wants to keep the music between himself and Oates, or have some sort of right of first refusal, or just block it outright. But the issue is he demanded arbitration, but there hasn't been an arbitrator assigned yet. So the arbitration process is moving slowly. So then there's a judge here that says, hey, I'm going to put everything on hold until an arbitrator can get involved and read through this agreement and really sort out who has the rights to the music and can they be transferred or not.
Right. I mean, how do you think that this is going to play out then? Do you think Oates is going to be able to sell his portion? It seems like Hall and Oates may be done after this.
Yeah, Hall and Oates haven't gotten along for quite some time, but you would think that this issue is spelled out in that partnership agreement. Obviously, we don't have a copy of the agreement. It's a confidential agreement, but I'm sure once an arbitrator is assigned and gets involved, he or she will take a look at the agreement and say, hey, you know, can Halts do this or not? It should be black and white, and the four corners of that document will control.
Right. Do you think it may be this agreement too? Because Daryl Hall performed some of their hits on stage after the restraining order was made. Do you think maybe either one of them won't be able to perform these songs anymore if it gets that ugly?
Possibly. I mean, it may include rights to performance, but I really think this is something that relates to the music catalog. Again, it's just my guess based on, you know, things that Hall has publicly stated that, you know, in his past, he regrets selling his music. He didn't make as much money as he thought he deserved. I think whatever rights he does have to that music catalog, he probably wants to maintain. And I think that's what this is about, not so much, you know, who can perform what songs on stage.
All right. Well, moving on, because several lawsuits were filed last week under the New York's Adult Survivors Act, which took effect on Thanksgiving Day in 2022 and provided a one-year window for sexual assault plaintiffs to file civil claims, regardless of the statute of limitations. So that window closed on Thanksgiving. So let's break down some of these lawsuits that came forward last week, starting with Diddy, who is facing his third sexual assault lawsuit less than 1 week after his ex-girlfriend Cassie made similar allegations. So a woman claimed that he drugged, sexually assaulted, and abused her back when she was a college student in 1991. According to the court documents, she alleged that she was the victim of revenge porn and that Diddy created and distributed. So in her motion, she alleged that she met Diddy back when she attended Syracuse University and appeared in one of his music videos. They apparently went to dinner after the shoot where he allegedly intentionally drugged her before taking her home and sexually assaulting her. We kind of talked about this last week, how we thought maybe some other women would come forward now that the timing of this law is kind of, expired. So what do you make of these, not one, but not two, now three women coming forward?
Yeah, not good for Diddy. And we did talk about this last week. It was really a now or never for any victims of sexual assault, because once that window closes, there's no guarantee that it will be reopened. And obviously, we know how difficult it is for victims to come forward. But really, that timeline, that deadline, that really put pressure on both Cassie to file a lawsuit and anyone else who's making allegations to come forward. Obviously, for Diddy, whenever there's more than one victim, that's bad. I mean, jurors tend to look at that to say, well, maybe I don't believe one person, but if there's two or three or more, how can they all be lying? Cass had a very strong case because the allegations were so bad and there was that history with Diddy, and she probably had a lot of evidence. With this newest allegation, what I'll say is, whenever there's video evidence, if that does exist, that tends to be very strong. People can lie, Christina, but video does not. So if this newest victim has video, and that was indeed disseminated, that makes for a strong case.
No, definitely. And do you foresee this going to trial, or do you think that this will be settled as quickly as the Cassie lawsuit was?
I think it will be settled as well. Maybe not as quickly as Cassie, because that was, I think, a record one-day settlement. But I expect this to be settled as well. Again, Diddy has a lot of money and a lot to lose. And if he can pay some money to make this go away, that's probably the better course of action. When you see these sexual assault cases, and we've talked a lot about them on the show, and some of them are cases that I'm handling. You can really go in one of two directions as a defendant. You can dig your heels in, say none of this happened, these are all lies. You could push the case to trial, or you could try to resolve it. And it seems like Diddy is going to probably do the latter based on how he dealt with his ex Cassie.
Definitely. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And then finally, Tiffany Haddish spoke about being arrested for DUI after allegedly falling asleep at the wheel for a second time, saying that she's going to get some help. She was taken into custody by police in Beverly Hills on November 24th. And according to TMZ, law enforcement officers reportedly received a call about a person stopped in the middle of Beverly Drive who appeared to be asleep while her car was still running. The authorities arrested Tiffany for a DUI at the scene, and she was previously involved in a similar incident back in January of 2022. She was arrested for DUI and improper stopping on a roadway after Atlanta police responded to a call of someone asleep at the wheel. She was booked and released hours later after posting a $1,600 bond. So second offense of a DUI for falling asleep at the wheel. Will she have her license permanently taken away from her? What's kind of the repercussions this time around?
Christina, second DUIs in California are bad, and there are some mandatory penalties. The most serious of which is probably 96 hours of jail time. That is required by California law. So you're talking about 4 days in jail that she'll have to serve at a minimum. Obviously, it can go up to much more than that. And with respect to her driver's license, it won't be permanently revoked, but she will have a 2-year minimum suspension. And at least 1 year of that, she has to have an interlock ignition device. So that means she's going to have to blow into a device in her vehicle just to get it to start. So these are some pretty serious punishments that she's going to have to deal with. And this is just a DUI involving no injuries. Had someone gotten hurt, we'll be talking about even more severe penalties.
Right. So it doesn't matter, since the first DUI was in Atlanta, the second one was in California. It doesn't matter what state it happened in. She's going to still face that jail time.
Yes, as long as it's a priorable DUI. And California has a 10-year look back to see if there's any other DUIs. She can be charged for a second DUI, even if another DUI was in another jurisdiction.
Wow. So, and then what's kind of the time frame window of when she would have to report to jail?
Well, that's up to her lawyer. I'm sure that the lawyer is going to try to work out some sort of deal, but the judge's hands will be tied. Now, if the lawyer can miraculously work something out where, you know, Tiffany pleads to something other than a second DUI, sometimes they'll try to get reckless driving, not involving alcohol, what they call a dry reckless. Going to be tough when she's asleep at the wheel in Beverly Hills. But assuming that she has either convicted at trial or Hadish pleads to a second DUI, these are the minimum sentences that she's going to have to deal with.
Interesting. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Well, Neama, thank you so much for breaking it all down as always.
Thanks, Christina. See you next week.
See you next week.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.